Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 310. If you're confused because you thought you watched episode 310 last week, well, it didn't go so well. We had to cancel the episode due to some technical difficulties. So this is the real episode 310 of the Canadian Football Countdown, a proud member of the Canadian Football Podcast Network and the Alternative Football Network. We got a full crew here this evening. Ryan, Adam, and Trey here with you tonight to preview the 2025 CFL Playoffs. Regular season, 21 weeks come and gone. Can you believe it? We are here at playoff time. Yes, playoffs. We're talking about playoffs here tonight. We will do our division semifinals breakdowns. We'll break down each of the matchups here. We'll do some betting picks for those. We'll even dive into a couple prop bets that Trey was able to find for us. Then, of course, we'll do our annual full Grey Cup playoff bracket predictions. See who we all think is going to make it all the way to the Grey Cup in Winnipeg in just a couple of weeks, November 16th. So about 17 days away at this point from crowning the Grey Cup champion. We are live thanks to our presenting sponsor, Game Time TV. So you can learn more at GameTimeTV.ca or Facebook.com/GameTimeTVMB. If you are joining us live, send in your comments, send in your questions, send in your own predictions or your favorite betting picks for the week as we discuss each of these games throughout the evening here. Before bringing the rest of the crew, let me just finish running through the housekeeping notes here. As always, we want to acknowledge that the Canadian Football Countdown is brought to you from Treaty 1 territory, traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples in the homeland of the Métis Nation, as well as from Treaty 4 territory, traditional territory of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dakota, Lakota, Nakota, and Métis Nation. And finally, check out the Discord community. Links in the episode description. It's free to join us over there. We've got lots going on. As always, there, lots of great discussion around the CFL, the NFL. MLB is a hot topic, obviously, right now in the Discord. So lots going on. As Trey has changed his display name on the video too. And this is surprising that I know who this is. A member of the Toronto Blue Jays who also happens to have the first name as Trey. So it's that kind of week. Everybody's got Blue Jay fever, and why not? And we got CFL playoff fever here as well. So come join Discord. Links in the episode description. Join us over there. Now let's bring in the whole panel. I'll introduce myself first. I'm Ryan, the reigning CFL or Canadian Football Countdown season-long draft league fantasy champion. It came down to probably the wildest finish I've ever seen in a fantasy league in week 20. I pulled out the win at 0.8 points over Trey. So yes, I am the champion. Adam, you gave the crown to the wrong person when we all met in person. And Trey, I'm still waiting for it to show up at my door, although you don't have my address. So that's a bit of a problem with all of that. But I'm here with you tonight and joined by the runner-up and the most robbed person in fantasy football history, perhaps, and our resident betting expert, our regular season champion, Trey. You've had a couple of weeks to let it stew a little with the fantasy loss. How are you doing tonight?
I thought I was good until you started talking, and I just wanted to choke you out. But anyway, we're good. Yeah, I'm happy. I got a little revenge. I know. Whatever. I was right on the betting picks this week. I just want to say that. Anyway, other than that, yeah, I'm good. And yeah, Blue Jay fever. I hope they win Friday because I don't have the mental capacity for 2 CFL playoff games and Game 7 of the World Series on Saturday. So let's have a good weekend.
Yeah, that'd be quite the day there for sure. And we'll bring in the other member of the panel here. He's also a reigning champ. He's the reigning champ of the CFL Podcast Fantasy League amongst all of the different podcasters out there. Was it rigged that the commissioner took it home? I don't know, but either way, you earned the championship title. Congrats, Adam. How are you doing tonight?
Hey, I'm doing well, but I did want to mention it more as the reigning, defending, undisputed heavyweight podcast fantasy league champion of the world. Just to let you guys know, yeah, I won that. But hey, the CFL Outsiders, they put up one heck of a good fight. Old man shouting at clouds. Great congratulations to him on a great season. And all to the rest that all joined in as well from Ryan and Trey. and everybody else in the podcast world that joined into it. I did make my donation over to the Canadian Football Fans Fight Cancer the other day. Good cause. So I thought, you know what, that's a great one for it to go to. So it was $350, and I said, you know what, I can go and round up so they didn't have to do the administration work. So we did that for to be nice to them. And look forward to it next year. And hey, if you want to be the commissioner and win the podcast fantasy league, I mean, by all means, seems like the easiest way to not kidding. It usually doesn't work unless Ryan did. I don't think did you ever win that one? I can't remember.
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I won it. I did win 1 year. I was in the finals 2 years in a row before this season. I won one, lost one in the finals.
So just
looks like Trey, you got to take over commissioner duty of that league and round out the Triple Crown here for the CFC. I guess that's the good luck charm. Speaking of other fantasy leagues and ones that Trey was the commissioner of, though, as well, shout out to Josh in the Discord community for taking home the championship title in our Discord league for this season. Sent him a little bit of a prize there, and bought himself a nice looking Elks scarf, big Edmonton Elks fan. So kudos to him. Congrats on the win. Congrats on the prize. And that was a fun league for us all to play in throughout the year as well. Sad that fantasy football is over for the season. Game Zone, nothing for the playoffs. It ends at the regular season. So if you regularly tune into this show for fantasy talk, we won't really have a lot of that tonight. But maybe you'll be interested in some of the prop bets we talk about when it comes to betting a little bit later on. And I think those are all kind of the little notes around everything entering this week's show before we get into the regular content here. Hopefully the technical difficulties that we had are better this time around this week. We are sorry we had to cancel the show last week, especially in super important week 21 when it comes to CFL fantasy, but internet issues happen, and it seems like things are a little bit more smooth. Although I am getting a note here about some audio feedback a little bit, so we'll try to sort that out here super quick for y'all. Let's dive into our first game. We'll start with the West semifinal preview. We've got the Calgary Stampeders and the BC Lions going head-to-head in the West. BC, the home team. Where did they finish with their final record on the season? Let me pull up the standings here. They finished tied at 11-7 on the year, the Lions and the Stamps, and kind of felt like two teams potentially trending in opposite directions. Let's start by talking about the Calgary Stampeders, and go to you first, Adam. Your thoughts on Calgary's season?
Overall, Calgary had a pretty good season, a lot better than I think most people kind of predicted was going to be coming. I think what they expected was good. Where are we going here? Calgary, honestly, I don't think we're expected to really do much. Well, again, Vernon Adams in there, they were expected to do better than what they did the year before. But if you told me that the Calgary Stampeders at the beginning of the year were going to go gangbusters and pretty much take over the top spot in the West for a little while and make this a very competitive race going down to the home playoff chance by the last play of the game, essentially in the last game of the season, I would have told you you're lying because I didn't expect that. Honestly, I thought that they were a very good team, to be completely honest. I thought they kind of had a little bit of a trail off there for a little while. They had a key injury on the defensive line that hurt them for a little while. So that part there for the Stampeders was a little bit of an issue. But hey, their defense played real well. I thought most of the season afterwards, they were pretty strong, especially in the first half of the season. Their receiving core, it started off strong, went and trailed away a little bit. One consistent, though, I think was Dedrick Mills in the running back position for the Stampeders. And I thought, Rennie Paredes, again, maybe not as solid of a season as he used to be having, but the guy's also up there in age already. I think that he's probably getting into his own. And let's face it, if he's in the playoffs, he's still one of those core kickers that you definitely want to take a look at. Mr. Yasavage, any comments on the Calgary Stampeders this season?
Man, I mean, they started off so hot, right? They looked like they were going to run away with this and be the definitive favorite and number one seed. And then they kind of slowed down. They had some injuries mid-season. Adams was out for a little bit. Their receiving core got decimated. Looks like they have a long list of injuries heading into this week as well, which I'm sure we'll talk about. So that's kind of Calgary. I don't know. That's where I'm like, I don't know which Calgary we're getting on Saturday. Are we getting the one from early in the year? Or are we getting from the middle of the year, the late of the year? Which were we getting? Same with BC, though. BC's kind of had different faces this year as well. And right now they're, I guess, one of the hottest teams in the league. It kills me to say it, but they are. And so I don't know if Calgary, we talked a lot about Calgary's defense early in this year too, right? They've given up I think the least points this year. Yep, at 416, but they're going, 416, but they're going up against the team who put up the most points in 559 in the BC Lions. So it is complete polar opposite teams, and it'll make some interesting betting, I think, in a little bit. Ryan, what do you think about this Calgary team?
Yeah, sorry, I'm back now. I stepped out for a little bit. I think the sound may have been coming from my headphones, so I swapped headphones. So hopefully the audio is a little bit better for everybody now. Going back to the previous one, seems like it has stopped a bit. Second least points so out, I believe Calgary. Saskatchewan actually had 409, so just slightly under, but the numbers all kind of look similar, so it's hard to tell at a quick glance from the standings there. Calgary, I mean, however the playoffs turn out for the Calgary Stampeders, we have to come out of this year thinking this year was a success for them, because coming into the season, every single one of us, I'm pretty sure, had them at 5th place in the West Division coming into this year. And I was higher on them coming into the year than both of you guys were, I'm pretty sure, where I said, I think they're going to be a much improved team. The entry of Vernon Adams Jr., the receivers they brought in, guys like Dominic Rhymes adding to that receiving core, Tevin Jones as well, are going to do wonders for this team. And I think they're going to be better, but just not good enough to vault ahead of some of those other teams in the West that still look really good. Well, yeah, Calgary came out to the hot start this year, and I felt pretty good about, kind of being a little bit in Calgary's corner and saying I believe in this team. And it was weird that it was the defense, because I didn't give I thought their defense was going to be absolutely terrible this season based on some of the offseason moves. And this was a team that, the offense would feast because they'd be playing in catch-up time all season long. And that's not really what happened. The defense locked things down. The offense all goes through Dedrick Mills. I think Vernon Adams Jr. has been a huge help in terms of a locker room presence and that franchise face of the team, that leadership level. But I wouldn't say it's the play on the field of Vernon Adams Jr. that has led to Calgary being 11-7 this season. I would say his stat lines have been moderate, average at best at times, and pretty low other times. So when it comes to Calgary's side of this matchup, it's a test of that defense that was so strong early in the season, and then Folarin Arimolade goes down with an injury, and they looked atrocious for a couple of weeks on end, including 2 matchups against BC. They kind of got things back on track at the end of the season with a couple of big games there. I think that, what was it, the one against Hamilton in the last couple of weeks? That was the real shocker of Calgary's back on track at that point in time. And so now it's, can the defense stop Nathan Rourke? And they have to make sure Dedrick Mills is involved, because if not, I don't think they have the offensive firepower to keep up on the passing game alone based on how they've been playing this year. So that's the
I agree.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, you go. I was going to say, I agree. Yeah, I agree. Because their last loss came against BC, and they've been rolling against Eastern teams, right? And then Edmonton, who's given up by the last week for the most part. But BC is kind of the same thing. They just kind of have rolled over some teams that aren't as good. So it's kind of be interesting to see. I guess they did beat Saskatchewan, but I guess it's interesting to see. Yeah,
so then talking about the BC side of things, let's get into that side of this matchup as well. I mean, you said it, they're the hottest team in the CFL. The BC Lions officially finished with the most productive offense in CFL history this season, apparently, to what was it, yards per play or something like that. I forget what the exact statistic was. They finished 11-7 on the year. It didn't look good at the start of the year, and I think we were all kind of discounting this offense at the start of the year as well, saying, they gave up Alexander Hollins, moved on from him. Keon Hatcher, we weren't sure coming back from his injury state last season what he would look like. Well, look what he did this year. Did he lead the league in receiving yards? I want to say he did. He did, yes, 1,688. So he led the league in receiving yards by almost 200, or almost 1,700 yards on the season. Justin McInnis finished third in receiving yards again, and then they had guys step up here and there. Barry Hill was hot to start the year. Katoy had his moments. Eberhard had his moments throughout the year as well. And James Butler, that re-addition, may have been one of the most clutch signings for this team because he looked really good too. So I didn't have that high of expectations for the offense coming into the year as much as I thought Rourke was going to bounce back. I didn't imagine him bouncing back to the degree that he has this season. Let's go to Adam first, and I want to come back to you, Trey, because I think you kind of typically have a different side of view on the BC Lions that I'd like to explore a little bit as well. But Adam, I want to get your thoughts here.
Yeah, BC Lions, again, they were a team that started off a little bit quiet. And that mainly was because of that oblique injury to Nathan Rourke. He's all over that, obviously, because the guy's been gangbusters and on fire for the last pretty much 4, 5, 6 weeks. I mean, the only concern I would have is the big game that they know they need to win. Boy, they didn't look great last week against Saskatchewan. I don't care. It maybe was because, again, Saskatchewan wasn't putting their best foot forward, so BC didn't. Maybe. I hope they aren't playing down to teams. But honestly, the 1As, when they were in for Saskatchewan, looked and took it a little bit to the BC Lions. And that would be a little bit of a concern to me. The other bit that I wanted to say for this one here for the BC Lions is injuries, actually. If you take a look at the injury report for them right now, they have 2 very, very big guys that are questionable this week right now. Justin McInnis, ankle injury, has been limited in practice. He's been questionable. But even worse is the guy that you mentioned earlier, Ryan. James Butler has only practiced twice this week, also ankle injury, or actually practiced once, I should say, this week so far. Very limited in his practice on, I guess it was Thursday today. And yeah, they're going through previews to our practice tomorrow, possibly. But hey, he's questionable for this game. And if James Butler isn't ready to go, advantage Calgary, because that's a big piece that you need to have going for you in these games. So you know what? Honestly, BC, I think, has probably been the hottest team in the league for probably a little while. But gee, that last game, there's some things to maybe take a look at. And probably Trey is going to say why he thinks what he thinks about BC just because of that last game. Right, Trey?
I think that doesn't happen to me very much. But my biggest takeaway here from BC is the defensive side of the ball. They've given up third most points. Like, sure, they can have the most productive offense of all time, but their defense isn't giving them any favors as well. I was kind of going through the season while Adam was talking. Yeah, they've won a few in a row, but against some weaker teams, or Saskatchewan kind of resting. But they've also, given up at points. I just saw like 50 points.
Their defense had some stretches. Yeah, where they really struggled.
Yeah, but I mean, here, and that would be my concern, I guess, because we're looking at it here. Granted, you're in the dome. I don't know what weather was like in Calgary this week or whatever. So, I mean, that's the plus side. You are in the dome. You get this and that. Should be good conditions. Should be passing conditions. But that could also benefit Calgary, right? Calgary does have an arm and could throw it against this defense as well. So, I don't know. My big concern is defense. I am very impressed with their offense. I still am not sold. I'm not getting Nathan Rourke tattooed across my head like Ryan might. But because I still have some reservations on him, and I don't want to be the cynical guy, but there's a part of me where I'm like, if you're good enough to be in the NFL, you'd be in the NFL. I kind of have that thought. So to me, he's not a top 50 quarterback in the world, but he might be a top 3 in the CFL. Sure, he only lost out to Bo in passing yards, and does Hamilton do nothing but pass? So I mean, it kind of balances out. He could be this one. There's just a little part of me that I just want VA to get the final laugh. That's all I really want this year, especially in BC, the team that, BC could have won the Grey Cup easily last year, I think, if they kept rolling with VA, but I get why they did what they did. So I think it'd be interesting to see BA get the last laugh. And I've been going back and forth on the betting picks. Like, a part of me wants to smash the over because I'm like, well, BC's defense sucks. But I'm like, Calgary's defense is pretty stingy. You know, they might not give up. It might be a 2017 game, but I could also see this being 60-57. So it's very, very interesting. But BC, I think the defense, they're going to have to play up because they are facing, I think, one, if not the best defense in the league at this moment.
See, I understand the concerns about BC's defense throughout the season because there were often moments, especially early in the year, midpoint of the year, like that game they allowed 51 to Toronto, where absolutely they were struggling, and that was the Achilles heel of the team, and it was, okay, Rourke's going to have to score 30 every game for them to win. Down the stretch, the Lions defense is actually, like, Matthew Betts woke up, and Matthew Betts is now a nominee for most outstanding defensive player on the season. And first half of the year, there's no way he was going to be. I feel like he was pretty quiet. Then he had, 6 sacks in 2 weeks or something like that, and then kept adding up in there. They kept getting the interceptions. So I think that defense, why I'm more confident in the Lions, is that defense has honed it in down the stretch as well, where it's not just, if offense has a bad day, I'm still feel kind of comfortable with the Lions' ability to win a game, especially at home with Calgary on the road. One other stat I wanted to mention here that I think people don't give the Lions enough credit for is they allowed the least sacks in the league at only 20 on the season. If you go back to week 2 and week 3 against the Bombers, especially week 2, where that offensive line could not keep Nathan Rourke or Jeremiah Mazzoli upright, it was one of probably the worst offensive line performances I have ever seen. I thought that unit was going to be a mess all season long, and they weren't going to be able to keep Rourke healthy. So I don't know what changed after that, but they really turned it around. And only 20 sacks in an 18-game season is a pretty incredible feat to accomplish. Should we get into our betting picks for this game, fellas? I think we've talked fairly good about both sides of things. Do you want to run through before we begin, I guess, where are we at for our season totals, Trey? Do you have those on hand?
Yeah, I do. I've been staring at them gloating all week, Ryan. Don't worry, man. So last week, the spreads, I went 4-0. Adam went 1-1 because he sent him in late, and Ryan went 1-3. Ryan, you did do pretty good in over/under, though. You did go 4-0 on that. I'll give you that. Where I went 2-2, and Adam went 1-1. Which are regular season final totals. I led the way with 48-33. Adam was 45-33. Ryan, you just couldn't get to that Mount 500 in the spread. 39.
I came so close, so many times. I got within one game. Within one game, I would get there, and then that final week, I blew it. But the over/under strategy of all unders in half meaningless week 21.
100%. Because over/under, you just finished one worse of me. I was at 45, 37-1. You were 44, 38-1, and Adam was 40-1. I did lead the way with a 57% win rate. Adam was at 55, and Ryan, you were at 51 if you combined it all. So we're making money, but we still got 5 games left. So we're gonna get you to about 500, Ryan. We're spreading. You got to go 4-1. So let's start it off. At least you're probably not getting -15 in the playoffs. So get the ones here. But I'm really looking forward to this one. Calgary, BC. We have the graphic.
Do we have the banner? We do have the banner. There we go. Thank you. Yeah, BC -5, 5-point favorites at home over the Stamps. Over underline 54.5. Trey, you're the resident betting expert, so give us your take first.
Oh, I've been back and forth on this one a lot today because, again, like I said, I could see this one being a Dunnigan gunslinger game, right, where it's halftime and it's 40-40, and we could go into quadruple overtime like that 18-inning baseball game the other day, and these teams just really lighting it up. But I could also see this one being a sloppy game. You know what I mean? Even though it's in the Dome, I could see this game being some turnovers, some picks, some weird plays. I don't know, but I will go BC -5. My only hesitation is I think if this game gets sloppy, that's when I start leaning towards Calgary, and maybe their defense comes through or something. But I will go with BC the -5. Heck, it's in the Dome. I'll crush the over 54.5. I could see BC putting up 30 in Calgary if they put up 25. It's gravy, right, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm doing the exact same thing. I had that same thought. 30 points from BC, 25 from Calgary type of game here. I think it could be close potentially. Calgary has shown their ability to produce in big games throughout the season. You look at some of the top teams in the West Division, and they played pretty well against them this year. But I'm not going to pick against this Lions unit in this matchup at home. If this game was in Calgary, I would maybe go a different direction, because both of these teams, as much as you want to say, Trey, that home field advantage doesn't matter, I would argue these are two of the top teams in the CFL where it matters the most, because we see Calgary often struggle on the road. What they finished with that record this year? Maybe this year was a little improved. Okay, so they actually, both teams actually were only one game up at home over on the road, which seems actually a little inconsistent with what we've seen in past seasons. But I'm not going to pick against this Lions offense, and I think their defense is actually better than Calgary's right now as well. So I'll go with the Lions, and I'll go with the over. Adam, what are you thinking?
I think I'm going to go with the BC Lions, and the reason being not because I want to bug Trey, but yeah, this is, if there was a certain thing about home field advantage, this is the game about home field advantage. Nathan Rourke plays better in BC Place Stadium than any other quarterback in any other place. If this game was in Calgary, I probably would have looked at picking the Stampeders a little bit more. I'm still a little nervous if James Butler, if he all of a sudden doesn't play for some crazy reason. I'm sure he will. But in case he doesn't, if he didn't, then maybe I might consider this once more. But as it sits right now, I think the BC Lions are the hotter of the two teams. BC Place, I think, will be rocking. And I think Nathan Rourke wants to prove that he can win a playoff game here. When the first one go on to Saskatchewan, who right now is currently sitting there getting healthy and getting ready and, trying to sell tickets for whatever they could possibly sell them for, because they are doing all sorts of promotions in Saskatchewan. Anyway, less on that. We'll talk about that more next week. The BC Lions, I'm going to take the over on this game. Actually, I think this is going to be one of those really, really high-scoring games, because both VA and Rourke can light it up at times. So give me the over, give me BC, and let's see what the coin, for the fun of it, says. The coin is telling me the Calgary Stampeders. The coin is a very odd fan, I guess. But hey, we'll see what it does, and we'll see how it goes.
Small counter argument on the concerns if James Butler is out for the Lions. Xander Horvath ran for over 150 yards against the Stamps just a few weeks ago. So he's actually produced fairly well since he's come in, and kind of has that fresh legs late in the season that he could still make a difference there. All right, do we want to do prop bets? How do we want to approach prop bets? You got a bunch of them in the document here, Trey. I don't think we have time to go through all of them. Nah. So what do you want to do here?
I don't know. I could give a couple of my thoughts here, and you guys could just tell me if you agree or disagree. We don't gotta go too crazy in them. There's a couple interesting ones. There was passing yards, rushing yards, touchdowns, receiving yards. You know what? I will. Oh no, it's the other game. I'm getting the two games mixed up here. Let's look at Nathan Rourke passing yards. Over-unders at 332.5. Both over and unders at -114. I'm really interested about this one because, again, we were talking about the passing yards and everything. I think you would have to smash the over. I could see this being a 400-yard passing game from Nathan Rourke. Ryan, what do you think on that?
It's going to be close. I have my fantasy stats sheet. I haven't compiled the stuff from week 21 because the fantasy season's kind of over, so I don't have those stats in there. But up until week 20, he passed that total. He went over that total 7 times on the season, which is not that many for, the confidence level. It's a really high line. Like, expecting a QB to throw for basically 340 yards is tough. He hovered around it in a few others, though. I would bank on Rourke throwing for over 300. I don't know if he gets to 332. I'd probably take the over because this game could get a little bit out of hand, but I think it's close at this line. Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty high number, but That being said, I did watch him throw for a crazy amount of yards in the first quarter in Saskatchewan last week. So, you know what? I'm going to take the over on that one there and see what happens.
On the flip side of things, with the Calgary side, with Vernon Adams, I'll just throw it in here right away with the line of 269.5 passing yards for Vernon Adams. Easily going under that, in my opinion, because he hit under that on 3, 4, 5, 7, 8, 10 times this season. He only had like 5 games where he actually went over that total. Sorry, Trey, I might have caught you off there. Did you give your Rourke passing yards already? I forget your
I
take
smashed the over,
right,
and I completely agree with smashing the under on Adams. If there was a way that you could parlay those two together, but you know what though, I'll be honest, I could see Calgary again if it's a garbage game somehow win with Adams at 200 passing yards, 1 touchdown and 2 picks or something stupid. So I don't think it's fundamental to Calgary winning that he has to go crazy and hit the over, but Calgary gives me the vibes of Philly, the Philadelphia Eagles, where they just play garbage and then do enough to win, and then they do a couple pushes and that's it, right? So that's how I could kind of see this game where I hate to say it, but Kansas City could be like the BC's like the Bills or Kansas City, just high power offenses, and so it'd be an interesting mix here when those two teams clash. One I wanted to just kind of goof around with is the alternative spreads. So we were saying the spreads +5 for Calgary, -5 for BC. But if you wanted to mess around at the same odds, so this is the way I look at it, is Vegas's way of saying this is pretty similar of happening. At +200, Calgary is -1.5. So for Calgary needs to win by 1.5. You get +200 odds. For the same amount of odds, +200, BC would have to win by 11.5. Which one do you think is more likely to happen? 11.5 BC or Calgary by 1.5, Brian?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I don't like large spreads, so I feel like I would probably go Calgary, but I can't see Calgary winning this game. So give me BC 11.5. I think there's a scenario where that happens. Adam?
I like the BC one, to be honest with you, too, because 1 touchdown and 1 field goal and 2 rouges, and you're there. So, you know what? Honestly, I could see that, and not very surprisingly if it does, because Calgary is kind of a team that was prone to getting beat deep. And if they do, well, that means lots of touchdowns potentially. So, yeah, I could see that one. Although I could see the argument, too, for a very close game and a Rennie Paredes field goal in the end. So, either way, I mean, you can go have a case for either one, but I think BC one's a little more likely.
I'm gonna go different just for funsies, but because I do see the second half of what Adam said in the Calgary game, I could see this one being. I feel like again, this could be a classic CFL game where maybe BC feels like they should be up big, but Calgary lingers. You know what I mean? Like a punt return or an interception or something, and Calgary's next thing you know, Calgary's down 6, and then there's a quick 3 and out, and Calgary somehow wins. You know, I could kind of see that. So I'm gonna go Calgary -1.5. Yeah, and I got some anytime touchdowns. I was thinking Phil Pott at +165 or Katoy on BC at 190. First touchdown, I went with Dedrick Mills at +1,300. I think, again, maybe if Calgary runs the ball a lot early. And that's kind of everything I really like in this game. Anything else you guys want to touch on, or should we move to old East Division here against the Winnipeg Blue Bombers of Montreal?
Yeah, let's move on to that one here. Unless Adam, you had anything really quick.
Not really. I was just taking a look over in the Calgary Stampeders injury report. Nothing too spectacular. If you did want to know, I think the biggest one that I could see is Damon Webb. Really good defensive back. He's going to be out this week. I think that could be a big issue for Calgary. Other than that, I didn't really see a whole lot. That's really interesting. It looks like they got a lot of players available, but a lot on the report, if you want to go that way. Let's move on.
All right, East semifinal preview. The Montreal Alouettes at 10-8 hosting the West Division crossover. Winnipeg Blue Bombers also at 10-8. A rematch of the week before, but is it really a rematch of the week before? Interesting scenario in week 21 where Montreal already was kind of locked into second place, ended up saying they were going to start Davis Alexander, or kind of implying it, and that they weren't going to play a ton of backups, and then pulled him and Tyler Sneed right before the game. McLeod Bethel Thompson gets the start. Winnipeg, despite having the option to play for third in the West, rested almost all of their starters in that game and basically said, yeah, we want to go out east and get out of this healthy. So the Winnipeg ends up with the win in that game, a little bit of an upset potentially you could consider, since they rested more guys in that one. Do we draw anything from that game, or is that just 100% meaningless? Because to me, without Davis Alexander starting, that game was just meaningless. Trey, anything for you to pull out of that match last week that means anything?
No, just that if both, starting offenses or starters get hurt, then I can maybe pull something from it. But other than that, no, I think it meant little. And I think because neither starter started, right? And for Winnipeg was a big chunk of it was their third string quarterback right after the injury to Strevler. So I mean, I don't think you can take anything from it. Even if both teams went full tilt starters, you can't compare it. Playoffs is different. You can't tell. Even if the starters out there, they were probably not giving 100% anyway. So I wouldn't. No, this one's fresh. Adam.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you couldn't really get anything out of that game. You go and, hey, if you want to make a bet and you want to guarantee that you'll never see another clip of that game ever again, please, hopefully no, and you never show that one to anybody ever again. That's the game you never show.
That was definitively one of the worst CFL games I've ever watched.
It was brutal, to be honest with you. Just quickly run through the injury report, I guess, for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. Really, they only got two guys that aren't going to be potentially available. One's obvious. Chris Strevler, I mean, he's done. Season's over.
Career over? What do we think?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to say that, but you know what? It's sure looking bad for Chris Strevler. I sure hope it isn't. But you know what? Hey, all the best to him. I hope for whatever he's doing. I hope he gets going again. And yeah, you never know. Maybe he'll get his chance to pitch in Game 7 of a World Series or something one day. Because he ain't going to kick it and get a World Series. I'll put it that way. No leg left. Anyways, the big one, I think, in Winnipeg that everybody's been talking about all week long is the injury to Nick Dembski. Hamstring injury, didn't practice all week. Probably a guy that really doesn't have to if he wants to go. I mean, he knows the playbook inside and out for Mike O'Shea. That being said, he is doubtful for this week. I could see him not making this one just because he has been hurt for quite a little while here. Everybody else in there, I mean, pretty well is going to be ready to go. Looks like non-injury related was Mike O'Shea's favorite word of the day when the injury report came out earlier this week. So overall, Bombers are probably ready to roll with whatever they've got. And kudos both to Montreal and Winnipeg. Their Twitter battle that they've been going back and forth on has just been immaculate.
I don't know if I've seen much of it.
It was hard for me because Montreal used George St. Pierre. That was a tough one to hate on. I was like, that's one of the greatest.
And not only that, they used Willie Jefferson on the other side for Winnipeg. So I mean, you love both of those guys. And then also Winnipeg put down that birds aren't real, and I was like, yeah, that isn't good.
They also had I think I saw a post today about Duolingo session on the plane or something like that to learn French because they're going to Montreal. I love when the social media teams get involved. Kudos to them. Which team do we want to start? Let's start with Montreal, the home team here. I think it makes sense. Talk about the Montreal Alouettes. 10-8 season. Started the season off, first couple of games looking like nobody was going to beat them. I'm pretty sure a couple of games into the season, I had said they're going to have the East Division locked up by Labor Day. And then Davis Alexander got hurt. And this was truly tale of two seasons for Montreal. When Davis Alexander was in the game, they won every game but one by 10 plus points on the season. They had like a 1-point win, that crazy comeback over Toronto where he hurt himself again. Other than that, they won every game by 10 plus points. When he was not in the lineup, they might have gotten a couple wins with McLeod Bethel-Thompson at the helm, but some of those games for Montreal just looked awful without him. Now, obviously, Davis Alexander is back for the playoffs. He has never lost a start in his career. What is he at now? 10, 11-0, something like that? I know he's a couple games past Danny McManus's record for it, but he's never started in the playoffs. How much does that matter?
Have you been watching Trey Savage? Just kidding. I'm sorry. I don't know. It can, it cannot. I mean, it's a big stage, and I mean, I'm trying not hard because Winnipeg looked terrible this year, but there's that little thing in the back of your head that's got to say until they don't make it to the freaking Grey Cup, they're going to make it to the Grey Cup. So he does have a tough test, and I'm like, you know, in some aspects, this might have been the worst team to cross over because they've been so successful lately in the playoffs, where Calgary would have been VA's like first year in the helm. Rourke, it's, you know, still hasn't had playoff success either. And Saskatchewan was already pretty much locked up for first. But if they did drop to 4, that again, you know, Saskatchewan has been a lot tougher. So this might be one of the worst matchups you could have got. But I think that, you know, I don't know, man. There's a part of me where, again, like, Willie Jefferson's going to make this guy in life a nightmare, right? Him and Jake Thomas and that defensive line, that's all they're going to do. As long as he's healthy, I do think Montreal's got a good shot. If he goes down early, like you said, MBT is not the answer here. So it's I think it's up on him to be healthy more than really worry about anything else.
Adam, what do you think?
Well, yeah, it's a tale of two different teams. If Davis Alexander goes out early, if this game's over early, I think that they're probably the better team no matter which quarterback is in. That being said, this team just plays really good with Alexander in the backfield. And if he isn't, this team does not look very good. I have a little bit of concerns also about their running game in Montreal. I think that Stevie Scott, did I say that?
Yep,
right?
that's right. Yeah, he got it.
Stevie Scott, I think, is a good running back. That being said, he's also under pressure. This is the first real big test as a running back. So he's played well in the little bit that we've seen him. He's a new guy in there as well. And I don't think he's quite the same as what's on the other side of the football. Absolutely not. In Brady Oliveira. So I say advantage on that side for Winnipeg. Quarterbacks, you know, experience matters a little bit in the playoffs, but not a lot anymore. You just look at what's happening with a team in blue and red in a different sport. And you know what? Experience means something, but you know what? Just having the right stuff at the right time means a lot too. And I think that probably will go advantage Montreal in that case. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I struggle. Like, how much does experience matter? Because it's really like you have the first-time playoff starter in Alexander, and then you have Zach Collaros, who's been to the finals 5 straight years, right? But unlike a sport like hockey or basketball or baseball, you know, where everything's a 5 or 7 game series, multiple rounds of it, and teams that go deep in the playoffs gain infinitely more experience, like a large number of games. Like I look at in hockey, when Tampa was on the run it was on, every year coming in, it was like, I'm always going to bet on them to go far because they know how to play playoff games because they played so many. How many more games has Winnipeg played playoff games than Montreal in the last couple of years, right? You only play 2 games as a team in the playoffs, or 3 games, I guess, if you're in the division semifinals, versus a team that might have played 1 or 2. So it's not like they have that more experience, even if it's a number of years doing so. So I don't draw a whole lot into the experience angle of it. Alexander in the Montreal offense, it's weird. Like, yes, he threw over 300 yards 4 times on the season, but he also threw under 250 3 others. He's never struck me as this big, lighted up quarterback like Rourke is, for example, that we talked about on the BC side of things. He only had 2 games on the season with more than 1 touchdown pass in it, actually. He's just that solid presence that doesn't make a ton of mistakes, only 3 interceptions on the year, and that's able to get it going. And maybe they control the ball enough that then the defense gets its job done, and that's the way they're able to win a game. So it's going to be an interesting matchup because the Bombers' pass defense is really darn good too. And I'm interested to see what version of Alexander we get. And he's got the weapons. I mean, Philpott, Sneed, 2 of the top receivers in the game. I'm happy to see Sneed get an all-star nominee because I think he's one of the most underrated receivers out there. What do you? I think he finished 3rd in the league or something like that in receiving yards, top 5, and he did that with 4 different quarterbacks on the season. So shout out to Tyler Sneed was one I wanted to throw in there for the Montreal offense here. Any thoughts on their defense?
Dangerous. I mean, they've got some good pieces in there that are veteran laden, and they can beat you up if they really want to. I mean, Beverette's not maybe had the season like he had the year before, but he's still a dangerous linebacker. Same thing on the other side. My brain just went and had a brain fart on the other guy, but old Rough Rider. He's been dangerous in there as well. Their secondary, I think, is probably maybe a little bit of a chink in our army, but not much. They have a very good secondary as well. Really, there's no deep spot that I'd be very worried about with the Montreal Alouettes anywhere in the defense, to be honest. And Noel Thorpe's got them playing like they always play. They're playing fast and they're playing hard and aggressive. So, you know what? No, the Alouettes, I think their defense, I would probably give it the advantage over Winnipeg as well, just because Winnipeg has been known to kind of, lay an egg once in a while in the defense when it really matters. So, Trey or Ryan?
Oh, I was going to say, before we shift into the Winnipeg side of things, you mentioned Noel Thorpe. That's the part that, as a Bombers fan, scares me the most, is they struggle constantly against Noel Thorpe defenses. It doesn't matter which team he's the defensive coordinator of. He's found a way against the Bombers model to throw a lot of heat at the quarterback, and I think that's when Collaros struggles, is when there's a lot of heat on him and he's got to scramble and he can't find his way out of the pocket necessarily. So it's going to be an interesting battle there. Anything else on Montreal side for you, Trey? Or should we start digging in the Bombers?
Let's go to Blue Bombers.
All right, 10-8 season for the Bombers. You knew they had to regress eventually after the last couple of years, but they find their way sneaking into the playoffs despite some struggles on the season. And now they got to come out east, be the first crossover team in history to make the Grey Cup, I believe, or win the Grey Cup. Which one is it? It's one of the two. I think
no East team has made the Grey Cup. No East crossover team or West Division crossover to the East has made the Grey Cup. The closest was the Rough Riders against the Argonauts in 17, 16, somewhere there.
I'd be concerned if no East. I'd be concerned if no East team ever made the Grey Cup. Something would seem a little bit broken there, but
that would be a problem.
I don't even know where to begin with the Bombers and dissecting what we've seen from them this year. Anybody got thoughts on where to start or how we feel about this Bombers team?
I mean, let's hope they don't play like the last 2 games that I've seen out of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. If they do, they're going to get crushed. Honestly, you know what? They have moments where they can still show like they're like the old Grey Cup finalists like last year. And then there's moments where they look absolutely terrible. And I mean, to me, I think a lot of the problems with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers has been on the offensive side of the football. Jason Hogan has been he's been a terrible offensive coordinator for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. I was at the game, and you guys know, obviously, when they played the Saskatchewan Rough Riders, and the Riders should not have been anywhere close in that game. They were playing awful football, but yet the Bombers played worse. Why would you not run the football with Brady Oliveira or at least try to make some smaller passes? Let's put Chris Strevler in to make a touchdown pass. What are you doing? I mean, I'm sorry, but if Jason Hogan has a job after this game is done, it's because somehow the Bombers managed to scratch and claw and get their way into the East Final, because otherwise, this has been just brutal. The defense, it's getting older. I mean, I love Willie Jefferson. I love him when he gets up there and gets the ball and knocks it down on the line. But he's getting older, and it's starting to show a little bit with the Bombers. Overall, like I said, I think the biggest problem's on offense, but defense, they got some moments where they need to fix a few pieces in there as well. Mainly more so in the secondary, but Father Time is undefeated, and it's showing with this Winnipeg Blue Bomber team.
See, I disagree there. They actually have one of the statistically best secondaries in the entire CFL. They were best in the league in completion percentage allowed the second least passing yards, just a couple more than Montreal. So real interesting matchup there. Least passing touchdowns on the season, second least pass efficiency. Like, they had those couple of games where they got torched by DeMonte Coxey in the middle of the season, and then they made some adjustments ever since there. You know, maybe it was bringing in DeMario Houston that really managed to change things for that secondary. They've kind of been locked in down the stretch. Trey, what do you thinking about the Bombers?
No, I agree. Their defense has actually been a little bit more of their strong suit as of late. And I know they were playing backups against Saskatchewan, well, Montreal and Saskatchewan, but still, that's a football team out there, and you have to defend the Canadian-sized field. Like, it's still not easy. And every time, a couple of weeks ago at the game against Saskatchewan, I was there with my kids as well. And the fourth quarter, I just kept saying, okay, every time the Bombers punt the ball away, we're going to go, because all my kids wanted to go. And then as soon as they punted, next thing I know, it was like third down again. And I'm like, well, wait. So every time Saskatchewan got the ball back, it seemed to be a 2-and-out the other way. And Winnipeg was able to do that enough times. Now, do I think they're going to have to do a lot more than that against this Montreal team in the playoffs? Yes. But, I mean, I could see it. And we talked about experience. I do lean into it a little bit more because, sure, it's not like playing 50 games in a postseason or two in hockey or baseball or basketball. But that's why those games are even more valuable to me, because you can only get a certain amount. You can only get a max of 3 every year. And Winnipeg's got, I was trying to do the math, like what, 12 or 9 over the last 4 years or something like that. And Montreal, yeah, they won a Grey Cup in there and stuff, but not with Alexander under center, right? So, and you got guys like Jefferson and Thomas and stuff like that on the D line. And like we just talked about, this more very veteran and very talented secondary group. They can make it a nightmare for a guy who's essentially a rookie. I know he was kind of running around, but this was his first time getting the reins. So I don't know, man. I see both sides. We're joking about baseball. We're seeing a rookie and a young guy do well against some all-star pros. Hey, maybe he makes them look stupid like that guy looked. You know, maybe that will be what it is. But or also, how many times we see this story and it's the veteran getting the better of him, right? So I don't know. I kind of go back and forth. God, I hope the Jays win on Friday, because I can't do both. I can't do both on Saturday.
To me, this is going to come down to, like, what version of Zach Collaros are we getting? Because if he's locked in like he was in that 40-3 game against Hamilton, then the Bombers can play very, very well. The problem is most game, and if he's, turning the ball over and making those costly decisions he's doing, he could cost the team the win. And we've seen more often than not this year it trend in the negative direction with Collaros, and over the last couple of years as well. My concern is also in the playoffs. Like, yeah, they've made it to 5 straight Grey Cups, but how much has Collaros himself been really, lighting it up as a result of that? We've seen him disappear in Grey Cup games. We've seen him, I know he had that one West final against Saskatchewan where didn't he throw 5 picks or something like that, but they still ended up pulling out the win on it. So, what version of him shows up? And this game, to me, is going to come down to Jason Hogan, like you talked about, Adam. What is he doing with the offensive game plan? Can you get Brady Oliveira involved, and can you keep him involved? Because there was a game earlier this year where, and it might have even been against Montreal, where Oliveira had 13 carries in the first half, and he was an absolute monster, and then they gave him 2 or 3 in the second half. And that was a recurring story over and over this season. And so I see a very reasonable scenario here where this game is very close at the end of the first half because the Bombers have the ability to come out firing early in a game, and I would not be surprised to see them make it interesting, but then they just don't make the second half adjustments that they need to, and then they flatline the second half, and Montreal kind of takes it from there. Would be a perfect picture of the story of the season so far for Winnipeg, I feel like, if the game trends in that direction. Adam, anything else for you on Winnipeg side before we get into our bets?
Not a whole lot. Again, the biggest thing is you're right. Zach Collaros, is he going to be good Zach, or is he going to be the one that likes opening up a bakery and causing a lot of turnovers? It's going to be one of the two. And unfortunately, lately, I think it might be the second one. We'll see what happens, though. I mean, you got to play the game. And, hey, crazier things have happened in a lot of different leagues all over the place. So this could be just another one of those cases. So, yeah.
All right, let's get into our betting picks for this one here. Winnipeg or Montreal 6-point favorites at home. The over-under line at 49.5. Trey, what you thinking?
Well, I'll tell you right now, I'm hitting the under. I don't see this one going over 50 points combined. Even if one team goes a little explosive, I think the other one will not. So that's where I'm at with that. Oh, man. Give me the Bombers +6. I do. No, you know what? We'll save the prediction for later, obviously. But I do think this one will be closer than not. So, again, I think they'll be within 6. Adam?
I would love to have the Bombers and the Riders in a Grey Cup. That would be the best thing scenario for the league, and it would be awesome. Not going to happen, though. Davis Alexander looks just too good right now. I think that with Tyler Sneed there, with this defense in Montreal playing really good, I think it's going to be a close game. It may be under 6, and I'll be probably the first to admit that I could see it being under a touchdown. But, no, I'm going to have to go with the Alouettes. I'm going to take them for -6 and try that. So let's go with the over-under. I'm going to say an under on this one here. I think that it will be a very low-scoring game because, both defenses have their games. And if they're both on, it means that somebody else has to start to score. I just think it'll be Montreal more than Winnipeg. So, yeah, Montreal, give me the under, and the coin gives me the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Interesting. On the over-under, are Sergio Castillo and Jose Maltos Diaz just gonna, hit the over by themselves with 50-plus yard field goals? Because didn't Maltos just hit the the Montreal record in the final game of the season? I think for most field goals in a season, almost hit the CFL record. And then we know what Castillo can do, obviously, with the long bombs there. But no, I'm with you guys on the under. I'm going to take that as well. I think this is going to be a defensive matchup between these two teams. And I will ride with the statistics that I was advocating for last week in the matchup before Alexander got pulled, that, again, 6 of 7 starts this year, they've won games by more than 10 points. So give me Montreal to cover the 6-point spread here and get it done in the playoffs in round 1 once again.
Did you take the under?
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, I thought you said that. But I wasn't sure if you were being serious about the kickers hitting the over, so I was...
I considered it, but
could happen. Look at some interesting props we got here. So when we were talking about with a lot of field goals and how Collaros likes to throw the football to the wrong team a lot, anytime touchdown, Montreal defense +380. I think that could be a solid one to look at. One I also liked was first touchdown, Brady Oliveira. Now I know he's only got 3 on the year. But if you look at that injury report, Chris Streveler, who gets the majority of those touches down in the zone. Now, if it's 3rd and inches on the goal line, they're probably going to go with Wilson or something like that. But he doesn't. Streveler came in when they were in the red zone for the most part. So now I think leaning towards if Bombers get the ball first, or even if Montreal does, puts up an opening field goal, there's a good chance Oliveira could get the touchdown for plus 1,000. Not bad. I also like Oliveira, 66.5 rushing yards. I'll take the over. Only because I know they don't do it, but the only chance the Bombers have to win is if they give Brady Oliveira like 50 touches and he rushes for 80, 90 yards and he gets a lot in the air. That's the only way I think the Bombers have a real shot of winning, unless Davis Alexander throws an interception every pass. Like that's, or Trey Vavel gets a kick return every time Montreal puts a touchdown up. That's the only 3 ways I could see them winning this game, and 2 of them are very unlikely. Do they give out multiple millions if there's like 4, 5, 6 kickoff returns? I wonder. Anyway, so I'll go with that one. You know what, Ryan? I'll ask you because you mentioned Snead. He's at 64.5 receiving yards in the game. What do you like on that one?
Let me look at my stats on Snead here. I don't have his stats from the final. No, he didn't even play in the final game of the season. So what's the line here? 64.5. Let's see. How many times has he hit the over on that? He's hit the over on that 7 times on the season. So he's actually had a fair share of games beneath it. I think where a lot of his fantasy value came in for the year was on the number of catches. So I don't know. I'm hesitant on the Montreal receivers because I seem to always get the wrong one, if that makes sense. Because 1 week it's Philpott and then Snead has the rough game. And then next week Snead is back and then Philpott gets 3 targets and 0 catches on it. So I'm not super confident on any Montreal receiver. Again, tough passing against the Bombers. Alexander kind of doesn't strike me as that, heavy, large, guaranteed 350-yard passing total that we might get out of a guy like Rourke. So, and you got Austin Mack to feed in that offense as well. You've got Charleston Rambo, Cole Speaker. There's a lot of mouths to feed for Montreal. So I probably, honestly, I'm not going to give you an over-under. I would probably just not bet or on these ones.
I respect that. Not betting is a bigger, harder place sometimes. Adam, I'll throw one at you. Zach Collaros, passing yards, 250.5. God, he's got to throw at least that much, Adam?
If Winnipeg's going to win the football game, they're going to have to. I don't know if it'll be 250 yards for throwing to the Montreal Alouettes. Do the interceptions count as yards as well? Sorry, had to go there. No, honestly, I think he's going to be under that. I don't see Zach Collaros having a great game in the air, and especially if Nick Dembski's hurt. So, yeah.
I was going to ask that before. Sorry, so touch back. Do we think that 0 chance that some O'Shea mumbo jumbo, because wasn't it listed as doubtful, which means he could play?
He could still play. I don't know how often doubtful ends up as playing versus not playing. I could see Dembski obviously wanting and trying to do whatever he can do to be out there, and he's such an integral piece of the team. Like, that is a huge loss if they don't have Dembski out there.
That's what I mean with this doubtful. Like, it must be something serious, or it's going to be some chess match here, because I had a tough time believing Dembski would not play.
I think what they should really switch O'Shea's saying from doubtful to maybe go and just say the words maybe, because honestly, O'Shea sometimes is the worst in poker. He's not playing. I'll put it this way. To me, I think there's probably like a 3% chance maybe of Nick Dembski playing. So, yeah, you guys can clip that afterwards when he does play and wins the game for him.
Interestingly, you asked Adam about the passing yards for Collaros. I've been pretty hard on him this season, so you would think I would go the under on that. I'd actually I'm kind of split in the middle because he's had just 6 games over and 7 games under on the season. That's an area I'd probably pick the over, just because picking an under sucks for a prop bet often, right? Because you're watching the game and it's like, oh, there's a long pass. There's my chance of, hitting that is out the window. Whereas if you pick the over on it, this isn't sound betting advice. It's more an entertainment value of, having buy-in on the game is, well, I'd rather, hey, they have a chance up until the final minute to hit the over on that. And it's such a low line that I could see it happening, I guess.
No, for sure. And And what I was one last one that we can get into wrap ups or whatever we got to do is I was just thinking about Zach Calero's passing touchdowns at 1.5. Again, this is one that I would stay away from normally, but now with Chris Streveler out, maybe they do throw the ball more again in that 30 to 20 range if they're not giving it to Oliveira. So I would actually maybe take the over. Not maybe. I will take the over on Zach Calero's passing touchdowns 1.5 because again, I don't know what else they're going to do. You can only give it to Oliveira so much within the 20. Streveler's not there to do it. I highly doubt they're going to give Wilson the Streveler playbook within the 20. But hey, watch, maybe they will. But I say hit that over on that.
Since I took the cop out before on the Tyler Snead total and not giving a bet on that one, I will say the bet on this board that I am most confident in is the Oliveira over 66.5 rushing yards, because he's hit over that in 6 straight starts and 10 out of 15 on the season. So if they really don't use him enough that he can't get over that in this game, then yeah, that goes back to our conversation on Jason Hogan does not have a proper game plan in place.
On a side note, though, if they go and they run Zach Collaros out there on 3rd and 1 and let him do short yardage,
oh no!
I please no. Nobody wants to see that.
Anything else we want to talk about on bets here? Do we want to do that alt spread like you did on the previous one?
We can. So the similar odds on this one, Winnipeg minus 2.5, so they win by 2.5, was at plus 230, or Montreal at minus 13.5 was at plus 220. So that was as close as I could get for that. I'm going to lean towards Winnipeg at minus 2.5. I would take that over Montreal winning by 2 touchdowns. Winnipeg's the team that's going to keep it close. Like, it's just, again, the experience, the defense. I think it's going to be closer than it is going to be farther apart. Ryan?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that one, even though I had that 10-point victory stat for the Alouettes. I'd feel more confident in Winnipeg suddenly surprising than being all the way blown out and not catching up in garbage time or something. Adam?
100%. I don't see Winnipeg getting blown out by any means. Not by 12.5 for sure. So, yeah, I'd go with the 2.5 for Winnipeg.
Nice.
All right. Should we get into our full playoff predictions to round out the show? I feel like we got to round out the playoff preview show with that every single year. Our Grey Cup predictions. We'll go full brackets here. We'll start out in the West. So correct me if I'm wrong based on our picks on the spread earlier. All 3 of us have BC beating Calgary in the West Division, which means we all have BC going to Saskatchewan. Let's talk about that. Who do we have, BC or Sask, representing the West out in the Grey Cup? Adam, you're the homer here. Let's go to you first.
Who says I'm the homer? Maybe I'm going to pick the BC Lions.
Maybe you will.
No, I'm not. Honestly, you know what? The Riders have had a lot of rest. It's going to be that old staying of like it always is. Rest versus rust. That being said, I think Corey Mace is the reason that he's probably right, or he's got the West nomination for Coach of the Year. He's been getting these guys ready to go. They've been practicing even today. They don't have to be practicing this week at all, but they're practicing. They're getting ready. They've got a lot of guys coming back that are sounding like they said, I think Corey Mace said it in the interview, that everybody is a chance of being back for the West Final. That includes Roland Milligan, that includes Keyshawn Johnson, that includes Deontay Myers, that includes a guy like Tommy Stevens, who's been a big part of running the football on 3rd and 1 and getting 15. Honestly, the Riders, if they're completely 100% healthy, I could see them making a blowout in this one against the BC Lions. And especially when you look at the weather forecast right now, I'm not looking forward to going and sitting out in -2 or 3 and rain snow mix. It could be an ugly, sloppy game. And I think that's advantage Rough Riders right at the moment. So especially with a Nathan Rourke who does not for some reason play very well in Saskatchewan, as we've seen last week. And against Saskatchewan, he's played 2 to 3 times against the Riders. One was a blow for the Riders. And frankly, I won't talk about what I thought of the referees because we don't got the time, but that could have been a loss easily for BC last week. So, yeah, right now I'm going all Riders in the West. And Trey, what are you thinking of this West?
Well, hold on. Before that, I just want to go back to Nathan Rourke didn't play very well last week against the Riders. Like, yeah, they didn't blow him out like they should have. Guy completed 23 of 28 passes. He missed 5 passes on the day, threw for 368 yards, 3 touchdowns, and an interception. How much more do you want from him?
Under 400 yards, took how many sacks from a secondary or from a front line that didn't have Micah Johnson even in it, or Shane Ray. You know what? No, I'm not going to give BC any credit. Nathan Rourke could have had it. What's that?
He took 2 sacks.
Took 2 sacks, but again, that's against our secondary lineman. So yeah, I see that, Trey. Thanks. No, I think that Nathan Rourke does not play well against the Riders, and I will stand with that. So, yeah, go with that.
That's fair. Trey, what are you thinking?
We hit 35 seconds, so that's a time count under the new rules, right? But no, we're fine.
Mine will back up 10 yards.
No, obviously we went BC in the first round. I'm going to go with Saskatchewan in the East Finals as well. Yeah, I'm not as hard on I'll give BC a little bit more credit than Adam is, but I still think just whether Saskatchewan just was slightly better, they did kind of I'm going to lean towards Saskatchewan in that West Final. Ryan?
This is the piece I'm most torn about on the playoff bracket is this matchup here, because everything points BC for me with how they've been trending down the second half of the season. I've been skeptical of the Riders at times throughout the year of getting it done. You know, Trevor Harris kind of on a downward slide in the second half of the season. My one concern is, yes, cold weather in November in Saskatchewan, BC having to play on the road there is the only thing that has me possibly leaning towards Saskatchewan. But then I have to go back and see, like, fantasy-wise, every time I, thought, oh, bad matchup for Rourke, he's going to get shut down. He didn't throughout the season this year. Nobody was able to shut down that offense. That defense has been on a roll. I'm going to go with the BC Lions because I do believe in them, and I think they have the ability to overcome the matchup location in this game.
I'm just going to counter you real fast, Ryan.
Sure.
Every time you said that Nathan Rourke may not do it and you discounted him, was right. Nathan Rourke overcame him, except for the one team in green. So that's why I still think the Riders are going to go and take on Nathan Rourke and probably win this football game. But yeah, carry on. We got to get this done.
That we do. Now we go out east. Let's see. I think Adam and I both definitively took Montreal because we took them on the spread. Who do you actually have winning the game, Trey? Because you took Winnipeg at +6.
You know what? It's going to be a very blue weekend. So give me the Blue Bombers upsetting Montreal. There was an interesting stat. Now I know this is. I'm going to find it. I have to give the legendary Bob Irving credit for tweeting it. So if I can find it, I wanted to save it and I just forgot about it. So now. Good point. He's been tweeting too much about the Blue Jays, so I might not be able to find it. Oh, over the course of 18 games, CFL schedule, Blue Bombers scored 14 more points than Montreal and allowed 6 fewer than the Owls. Then he goes, not to say anything, just say it. So, I think both teams have had their ups and downs. I do think Winnipeg's got that experience a little bit, and I'll take the Blue Bombers to make some craziness happen.
All right, so then we've got the East Final. Hamilton's hosting it. We've got me and Adam have Montreal visiting Hamilton. Let's start there, and then we'll get to Trey's take on Winnipeg-Hamilton here as well. I've got Montreal over the Ticats in this one. I'm really believing them. Hamilton is going nowhere in these playoffs, in my opinion, because they have no ability to stop the run. Like, it's been terrible all season long. And that gets interesting because Montreal hasn't really been a run-strong team, right? Like Stevie Scott III has shown some flashes, but they're more of a pass-heavy offense. But they I don't know. Hamilton seems like a bit of a fraud to me. And I hope for their sake I'm wrong because I want Ticats fans to finally get that streak snapped potentially here. But I haven't felt great about the Ticats in the second half of the season, and I'm going to go with the Alouettes on this one. What about you, Adam?
I'm going to go with you as well. As much as I do think, though, that Hamilton will not have as big of a problem with the run game for Montreal. Again, you did see my comments about Stevie Scott earlier. I think that Hamilton is probably the better run team in that case. But that being said, I think Montreal, and with Davis Alexander in there, I think with Tyler Sneed and Austin Mack and Tyson Philpo and all the other pieces that Montreal has in that offense, I think they're just going to be too much for the Ticats to contain. The Ticats have a lot of pieces too, and I really do hope for Bo Levi's sake that he can make the Grey Cup, because, hey, you know what? It might, you never know. These don't come around very often, and that team is getting older. They built that team to win. They built it for their general manager to try to win a Grey Cup for them, for Ted. And unfortunately, I don't think they'll make it that far, because I'm going to go with the Alouettes. Trey.
Oh boy, I'm going to do something crazy here. Give me the Blue Bombers for the exact same reasons why you guys are all taking Montreal over Hamilton. I don't think it's going to be Hamilton. I think it's the winner of Saturday's game.
I'd agree.
Between the Bombers and Montreal. So give me Winnipeg to do the unthinkable and somehow play Saskatchewan in the Grey Cup this year.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, though. Like, if Winnipeg gets past Montreal, like Brady Oliveira against that Ticats run defense would put it over the top for me for sure. 100%. All right. So now we get to Grey Cup matchups. So I've got Montreal, BC. Trey's got Winnipeg, Saskatchewan. Adam's got Montreal, Saskatchewan. So we all kind of have different variations here. Trey's is the most juicy, so we'll save them for last. Adam, you go first. Montreal, Saskatchewan. How many men are on the field this time around, and who wins it?
Well, I know there'll be 13 in the crowd, because you know that the entirety of Manitoba is going to be green if that happens. Yeah, you guys can laugh about our attendance in Mosaic Stadium. We still drive 5.5 hours to watch a meaningless game when it's in Manitoba, when our Riders are playing. Nevertheless, I'm not saying for anybody in particular, but hey, you know what? It's a good rematch for those two Grey Cup matches. A little bit of revenge, I think, is going to happen, because I will go, and I hate to sound like a homer, and I have been pretty right on these Grey Cup predictions, by the way, usually on average. So I'm going to go with the Saskatchewan Roughriders going and marching Brett Lowther out there, and on the last second field goal, winning the Grey Cup. No, it's not going to be a 13th man, because that would be just way too ironic. But Brett Lowther's going to go out there, have himself a game. He's going to retire as a Rough Rider after this one, but he's going to walk away with a Grey Cup.
All right, I've got BC and Montreal in the finals, and I would be so pumped to see that matchup, because that means Davis Alexander's still undefeated against Nathan Rourke from the Hall of Fame coming out onto the field in the Grey Cup. I'm going to be at the Grey Cup, and I would just love to see those quarterbacks go head-to-head and the storylines around it in that game. You got to change the color you're highlighting on the sheet here, Trey, because I'm going to take the Montreal Alouettes actually to win this one over BC. And yeah, Alexander's going to go undefeated all the way until the end of the season. Yes, BC's been the hot team. I still have some of those concerns, just like I did in that game against Saskatchewan. I feel most confident of any team in the playoffs this year in the Montreal Alouettes. Now that Alexander is back, they're a completely different team when he is in the lineup. I think offense, defense, special teams, etc. So give me Montreal for their, second cup in 3 years? And the East Division to take 4 straight.
Nice.
All right, Trey.
Nice. Oh, man, this is the one we want. I think this is the People's Grey Cup. Most people want chaos. This is the one you want. This would be the rating bonanza here. Winnipeg somehow would be kind of the away team coming out of the East, but hopefully get home locker rooms. Saskatchewan would be the West team here. This one would be interesting to me, barring anything Kevin Glenn though. I think Winnipeg gets this matchup. I think in this one at home, again, I'm gonna do the unthinkable. Not only does the crossover team for the first time make the Grey Cup, may as well win it. We're seeing miracles on the baseball field. We're gonna see miracles on the football field, man. It's gonna be great. And then the Bomber dynasty can just explode. Caleros can go fishing with Trevor Harris every week for all I care.
I just want to see Manitoba explode because it's Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. That would make my day too. It would be big. I don't know if it would be bigger of a crowd than what's going to be in Toronto this weekend, but it might not be far from it.
Oh man. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I think it's got to be the craziest one because if it was Calgary or BC against Winnipeg, even with the crossover, it's not the same. I would be okay with losing to BC or Calgary in this one. I would not. I would, no. One of the last years with the 55 and we lose to the Rough Riders at the Grey Cup, that's it.
I don't know if I could handle the Bombers going all the way to win the Cup in the year that Trey randomly decides to have full faith in them after years of claiming their downfall is coming.
I mean, did we do this at the beginning of the year? I was just thinking, did we do picks?
Oh yeah, I probably pinned them in our channel.
I was wondering about what I picked because I was trying to remember.
All right, well let's start doing wrap up. I'll look for it while you guys are doing social media plugs, and we'll come back. So that's our playoff preview show. We'll be back again next week. We'll recap the two games a little bit that took place this weekend. We'll preview the division final, see if any of our thoughts on those matchups change when we get to that point next week. So stay tuned for that. Wednesday or Thursday next week, one of those days. We'll let you know on social media which day we are recording for that. You can follow the show on social media at CF Countdown Pod on X or Facebook.com/CF Countdown Pod or on Blue Sky as well. You can also join us in the Discord. Once again, link is in the episode description. Free to join us over there. We often are more active there than we are on social media. Lots of great shows around the Canadian Football Podcast Network at CF Pod Network on X. Alternative Football Network shows as well are at the official AFN on X or alternativefootballnetwork.com. Adam, you go first. Where can people find everything you've got going on?
You can find me at Adam Stewart 1 over on the old X. I got a little bit of stuff going on over there, I guess. Mainly senior hockey starting up, and we're running a really cool event going on for our team. If you know anything about senior hockey in Saskatchewan, you'll want to take a look at that. The Theodore Buffalo Super Draft is coming out. I mean, I'm sure Trey will pick up a team even though he knows absolutely nothing about any player. Be funny to watch, especially if Trey wins the thing. But you know what, honestly, yeah, I've got lots of that. I've been watching lots of baseball stuff. Like everybody, I think, in the whole country. I've got Jays in 6. I think they're going to win it tomorrow. And that's also for the love of the CFL because you know what? Yeah, I sure hope they're not competing against Game 7 at all on Saturday. Otherwise, boy, I don't want to see what those TV ratings are going to be like. But yeah, you can find me at Adam Stewart 1. You can also find me on Instagram at FarmerInSask if you're really looking for me over there. And hey, we didn't even run through though what Mike's predictions were because he sent those in as well.
He just pick the winners of the one game.
Yeah, just the semis.
Was it BC and Winnipeg? There we go. That's Mike's.
Dunzo.
There we go. Easy peasy. You can find me at the X at Trey MB Harness. It's nothing but baseball right now. You can find me in the Discord talking about that as well. I did predict Jays in 6 in the group chat when the World Series started, so I'm happy about that. I also have a buddy. I got some Snapchat screened. I said they were going to win it back in April, so I'm really happy about that. I should have made that bet then, so I bet the odds would have been better. But yeah, talk to me in the Discord about baseball, football. Yeah, that's about it. Anything else, Ryan?
I can't find the playoff predictions. I don't know where I put them in, and I think the planning doc for that one's been overwritten. So you can go back and listen if somebody wants to go back and listen to our playoff preview show or our season preview show. I guess this is the playoff preview show. don't mind if you re-listen to this one several times as well. But if you want to go back and listen to that one, you can find our preseason picks, and I'd be interested to know how they differ from that. You can find me on socials at CooperTrooper42 on X and Blue Sky, but I don't really do much on there. I'm also extra not on social media these days, kind of trying to stay off of it as much as possible. But Grey Cup is coming up in a couple of weeks. Grey Cup's going to be in Winnipeg. I'm hoping to get around to some of the things going on there. There's the CFL Fans Fight Cancer event on the Saturday right before Grey Cup, the 15th in the afternoon. Check that out. I'll be there as well. I think I'm helping out with some stuff there, so you might see me there. I'm also helping out at the Grey Cup Festival, actually, the day before on the Friday at the Family Fun Zone, I believe, there. So come say hi if you happen to see me there. And then going to be at the game itself on Sunday. So looking forward to the Grey Cup being here in Winnipeg, and looking forward to seeing these CFL playoffs here as we get close to wrapping up the season. And I still can't believe we're at that point of the year already. Whatever podcast platform you're listening on, we appreciate it if you do all the fun things. Like, comment, subscribe, rate, review, share the show with your friends. Help us grow the show. We always appreciate that. And on behalf of Adam and Trey, I'm Ryan saying thank you for listening. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.